with a habari gani. Habari gani is Kiswahili for what's the news or what is happening. This is a greeting that you would typically hear during Kwanzaa, and the response is the Kwanzaa principle for that day. So for example, the first day of Kwanzaa is Umoja, so if someone said habari gani, your response would be Umoja, which means unity. If the day was the second day of Kwanzaa, someone said habari gani, your response would be Kujichagulia, which is the second principle for the day, which is self-determination. Okay, now some of you might be wondering, what is Kwanzaa? Isn't it that Black Christmas thing? And I want to say, no, Kwanzaa is not Black Christmas. In fact, Kwanzaa is a non-religious cultural celebration of God providing bounty for us. Now, I don't know about you, but God has surely provided time and time again in my life. Has God ever provided for you? Well, if you have experienced, the Bible says, if you have tasted and seen that God is good and that He is a provider, then you too should be celebrating Kwanzaa, I would dare say. Because Kwanzaa, again, is just a celebration of God's harvest. In fact, Kwanzaa literally means the first fruits. And it is a celebration that you find in many African societies where they would have a harvest festival for the crops that come. And Dr. Malana Karenga in 1966 used that harvest festival that happens in many different African societies to develop this cultural celebration, which is a 7-day celebration that happens from December the 26th to January the 1st. And it is, again, a celebration of how God has provided for you. Again, it's non-religious, but because we're grounded in the understanding that God is a waymaker, we are grounding our Kwanzaa celebration in the way-making power of God, of Jesus, So during the 7 days of the celebration, we give thanks not only for God, for our ancestors, and also reflect upon how the 7 principles might help us as an African people do better in the presentation of our day-to-day lives. And so 7 days of Kwanzaa, there are 7 principles of Kwanzaa, and there are 7 symbols of Kwanzaa. I want to go ahead and walk us through some of the symbols so that you might understand. So first you would start with your mat, or they would call it the mkeka. So the mkeka is symbolic of your tradition that has helped you to make a way to where you are today. Then you would also have your kinara. The kinara is actually your candle holder that holds the 7 candles, which represent, again, the 7 principles, which are known as the Nguzo Saba. You would also have your unity cup, your kikombe cha imoja, which is called the unity cup, which you would use to pour libation. And again, you first want to pour libation to our original ancestor, that being God. And then you would pour a libation to, those historical ancestors, as well as those ancestors closer to your own family lineage. Then you would also go ahead and have what they would call the mahindi, which is the corn. And this represents the children. And normally during Kwanzaa, you would have a mahindi for each one of your children. My family is pretty large, and so I have 5 children, so I have 5 ears of corn here. You would have however many children in your family, that number of corn. And if you don't have children, you could actually use that as a representative of children in your community, the number of ears of corn that you would have. Another one of the elements of Kwanzaa is actually the mazao, or the crops. And here you see we have a bountiful basket of fruit. And again, Kwanzaa literally is the first fruits, the celebration of the first fruits. And so this is a demonstration of God, of how God is providing for you day in and day out. The very breath that we breathe is provided by God. The strength that we have is provided by God. And so, again, you are just giving thanks for the first fruits that God has provided. Then the next thing you would have is they will call it the zawadi, or the gifts. And now during Kwanzaa, it is recommended that you want to give gifts, particularly those things that you can purchase from black businesses. So they want folk to buy black. In fact, that's why one of the principles of Kwanzaa is even cooperative economics, Ujamaa. And they encourage you particularly to focus on knowledge. If you can give a book. And so here you see I have a book from our own Deacon Marvin Allen, Dare to Lead. So you can have that book or just lead. That's one of my gifts. Also, I have a bookmark that I just recently made that, again, could be a gift. And they also want to encourage if you can make things yourself. So we had a Kente weaver that was doing a presentation, and I made this, hand-woven bookmark. And then you also want to have some cultural artifacts. And because I'm a Pan-Africanist, I look for, Africans all throughout the globe for their advancement. You will see my Kwanzaa setup has, something from Africa. So we got, representative of Ghana. And then also we have a culturally dressed sister coming out of Guyana. So you will see the flags of both represented. This is the Pan-African Kwanzaa observance. And then the last thing would be the actual candles. And again, you have the black candle, representative of the people. You have the red candles, representative of the blood of the people. And then you have the green candle, which would represent the land of the people. And you would start, the first day of Kwanzaa is Umoja. You would start lighting the black candle for Umoja. Then you would go from left to right, lighting the candle. So then you would do Kuji Chagalia, which would be the red candle. Then you would go over to Ujamaa, which is the green candle. So, and then you would alternate going, red to green, but you always start with the black. And so that is how you would celebrate Kwanzaa. And again, it is a celebration of the first fruits. And, we know that it is God that gives the increase. And so we are celebrating, again, the goodness of God and how God provides bounty for us. And after you would, light your candle, you could, with your family or the community that you're celebrating, you would talk about that principle, how it might be important for you all. And then you could actually even have a karamu, or a feast, where you all can break bread together. And what I have heard some folks say is they just use it as a bonding opportunity. So again, Kwanzaa is focused upon us giving thanks for the first fruits that God provides for us, and also reflecting upon how we got over, how God made a way for us, and then what are we going to do to ground our children so that we can continue to advance toward a better day, because I believe that's what Jesus promised us. So thank you again for allowing us this opportunity to talk about Kwanzaa. We hope that you will celebrate in a great way. And I will end my Kwanzaa overview by saying Harambe, which means let's pull together. And you will see many folk at the end of their Kwanzaa observance, they do the Harambe, calling us to pull together. So thank you for engaging with this Kwanzaa overview. Now stay tuned for the next principle of the day.
Habari Gandhi. Hey, what's up? This is Minister OB, blessed to bring you with the principle of today, which is Ujamaa, collective economics. So I believe, as the title by Frederick Douglass, The Souls of Black Folk, that the souls of black folk in the year 2020 has whispered in our ears as a black community to maintain and build your own stores, your own businesses, your own schools, because when you do, the entire black community prospers. Yes, Ujamaa, that we have to build and maintain our own stores, our own communities, our own churches. Because when you invest in black lives, when you invest in black businesses, when you invest in black students, their investment might not be astronomical in terms of nickels and dimes, but the overall investment is so much greater. When we invest in the lives of black folk, the stores of black folk, the businesses of black folk, what you see is an investment in trust, an investment in hope, an investment in life. That's why today's principle is so critical for us today, is the principle of Ujamaa, collective economics. You see, the reality is that we have an example of what would happen in the black community when we pulled our resources together. See, at the turn of the 20th century, the 19th into the 20th century, O.W. Gurley, he brought 40 acres in Oklahoma. 40 acres in Oklahoma with the hopes of creating a community of blacks who will sustain a community. And so he bought 40 acres in Oklahoma and what would be called Greenwood, which we would know as now Black Wall Street. You see, O.W. Gurley believed that if blacks pulled together, they could sustain their own freedom, their own success, their own businesses, and he succeeded until white folk got mad and created some bogus crime that someone committed and burned down the entire Greenwood community. But I believe that today, even in 2020, we are still practicing and living out the principle of Ujamaa. You see, what happened in 2020 is that we saw George Floyd die. In 2020, we saw a global pandemic. And what happened? Black folk all around the world decided together that we will buy black, Ujamaa. And we did that. And many black businesses are surviving because we decided to pull our resources together. And just like in Greenwood, it was said in Greenwood that in the Black Wall Street that a dollar will change hands 19 times before it left the community. And I believe that if we can do that now, things will change. We will be more able to compete in the world market. But let me tell you this, that black Americans, we aren't the first to discover the principle of Ujamaa. But the early Christians, can you believe that they were practicing the principles of Ujamaa? You see, in Acts chapter 4, verses 32 and 35, it says this: all the believers were one in heart and mind. It says no one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And God's grace was so powerfully at work in them that there was no needy person among them. From time to time, those who owed land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put them at the apostles' feet. And it was distributed to anyone who had need of them. Wow. Did you see that? The early Christians recognized the principle of Ujamaa. That if they pull their resources together, not only will they have no type of need, but the gospel of Christ will be proclaimed. Can you imagine if blacks in America pulled their resources together and was able to travel around the world proclaiming the gospel of Christ because they had no need? That's the principle of Ujamaa. That we pull our resources together, we won't have any need. And we can further advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Habari Gani, what's up? Ujamaa.